some new taxes coming in for the UK. So I want to do a quick initial reaction review of the tax increases that are going to affect potential expats or people that want to start considering living and working abroad. So there is some significant tax creep type rises coming in uh, that you need to be aware of. Now, if you're in the UK and you're operating under salary sacrifice with your own personal service company, your own business, or even as an employee, um, and salary sacrifice put money in pensions, that money going into pensions is now going to be taxed as income and national insurance. So that's potentially 25% of national insurance for the employer and employee, plus the highest income tax rate that against your marginal rates. So that's a consideration. Could be a big impact and lead to a change of behaviour. If I consider how you could use offshore tax planning or living and working abroad, contact us at ProActPartnership.com. Uh, some significant capital gains tax changes in terms of business relief when you sell your business has been reduced by from 100 to 50%. So that means that more people are going to get caught up in capital gains tax at 24% when they sell their business. So there's big potential tax. We're planning ahead. There's a potential opportunity there to create some offshore tax planning holding companies that could mitigate or spread that tax over a long period of time. For more information guidance, contact us at partnership.com. If you own property in the UK and you're living and working abroad, you might already be paying double the rate of council tax if you've got an empty property. That's something that's at the local authority's discretion. But a new tax has been introduced for people that own property. So anybody that owns property that's worth more than 2 million is now going to get an additional tax that is payable each year. So over 2 million, that'd be 2,500 a year, flat rate tax, and over 5 million, it'd be 7,500 a year. Now, that's a capital asset, and it's a tax for owning a capital asset as valued by the government. So it's very much like a council tax, except that it's a lot of extra money. Now, you as a pensioner or overseas working person might not have that income to pay straight away, so they can bring in some mitigations to potentially pay that. But essentially, in England, we've got this principal private residence relief where you can own your own property and not pay capital gains tax when you sell it. But now, if you've got your principal private residence, you own it for 20 years, and it's worth over 2 million, then potentially you've got £50,000 of tax to pay that's accumulated up over time. So it's a wealth tax by another. You can either pay annually or when you sell it, in which case it's a capital gains. So your principal private residence, if it's worth a lot of money, is no longer a tax-free asset. There's ways to hold property in a different way um, uh, and protect your family's assets to vote gift and share with your family. Contact us at ProActPartnership.com. There's a bit of confusion, and we don't just talk about the current government, it's previous governments as well over the last 20 years that created this jumble in the UK. National insurance is a jumble, and the class twos were severely reduced in terms of what you could pay and when you have to pay it. They're massively increased in the Halloween 24 budget. And what we're seeing now is that they're going to abolish um, uh, uh, anybody's right to pay class two national insurance. Now, this was retained just for low earners or people living and working abroad. That's not the case anymore. So, confirming you have to live and work in the UK for at least 10 years to qualify for any state pension, but you won't be able to maintain contributions overseas with class two. And again, we'd see the details of that, but what I assume that they mean is when they say they're abolishing it, is that um, it'll continue, but by April 28 or maybe even April 26 or 27, class 2 will no longer be available as a contribution. So if you've already got a class 2 contribution, you're not going to um, carry that on after a certain period of time. Don't know the year yet, but uh, that will come in. Uh, it may no longer be available for an expat living or working abroad to do that. So if you've only been an expat and you're not from the UK, and you've only been in there for a few years, you won't necessarily be able to carry that on. Don't worry about it too much. The UK is in a reciprocal social insurance agreement with a number of countries, including USA and European countries. And so, even if you've got only 5 years national insurance in the UK, you can still add that into your home country. But what the UK is saying is that that's it. You know, if unless you're here for a long period of time, paying national insurance and income tax, then you're not going to get any state pension out of us. So it's a big change, and it's particularly targeted at expats. Proactive expat experts. So contact us at proactpartnership.com for more information and guidance on that. There's much ado about not increasing tax rates. And the interesting thing about the UK tax rates is if you look at your tax return, they talk about um, Schedule A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. That's all the different types of taxes for property, income, pensions, investment savings. And it was originally came up like that because a gentleman was supposed to have his affairs separate and independent and confidential from the taxman. But long since the UK have pulled all the money together to tax it at one income tax rate, which is what the case is. That's not the case in other countries. In Cyprus, you can come to Cyprus, your pension is taxed at 5%, your dividends are taxed at 0%, your interest is taxed at 0%, and so it you know, and then your income tax rates are somewhere between 20 and 35%. So if you're not working in Cyprus and you're living off pensions and savings and investments, the maximum tax you're going to pay is 5%. Now that compares to the UK where they mangle everything up. So if you've got a property portfolio with rental income and pension income and earned income in the UK, you can easily take yourself into 45% tax. Um, that's changing. That's changing now. So what they've announced is that although the basic rate and high rate tax rates have stayed at 20 and 40%, what's changed now is that there's going to be additional 2% tax on property rental income, dividend income, and savings income. So if you're an expat in the UK, or if you're working off a personal service company in the UK, and you're receiving dividends alongside your income, you'll pay an extra 2% income tax on the dividend income. So you pay your dividend tax, you pay 2% more. Ditto with interest. The allowances remain at these much reduced levels. They've gone down from 12,000 3 or 4 years ago down to very, very small levels. So you get an extra 2% income tax on savings interest. So if you've got a loan to your company, um, a loan to a business that you're investing in, it's paying you interest, you're going to get an extra 2% tax on that interest. If you get dividends because you're working in your own business, you're paying dividends, you're going to get an extra 2% income tax on that. If your property rental portfolio, you're now going to pay an extra 2% on that. Again, this could big impact on expats. So if you've got a property rental portfolio in the UK, you're now going to be paying an extra 2% tax on that. So instead of paying 20% on a 50,000 property rental income, you'll pay 22%. So it's a big increase there, 2% increase, specifically on property rental income, dividend income, savings tax income. So for every different type of income that you get, pension, property rental, dividends or savings, you always get or pay, you get a year-end tax statement, and that will be used to define whether you get this additional tax paying. If you're living and working abroad as an individual or with a holding company or family trust or business, then there's potential ways around that. Okay, to pay a fair amount of tax in another country with a double taxation treaty with the UK, or a social insurance agreement between the UK and the EU, for example. So you can pay social insurance in another country, can contribute towards the UK still. So even if you're not paying in the UK, you can pay in your other country. If you want to live and work abroad, you can get dividends for zero tax. You can get loan money into uh, a business in the UK and get interest, receive that back, and again, not paying interest on that as well. And your property rental portfolio, you still get your personal allowance. Personal allowances are frozen for even longer, so they're not going to go up until 2031. That gives the government a big credit rating that could be changed in the future. The main thing about that announcement is that it gives them a credit rating so they can borrow more money, potentially at a lower rate, even though borrowing is at record highs. So uh, it's the personal allowance rates are frozen for the foreseeable future. So if you want to consider living and working abroad for 5 years and not pay an extra 2% tax on pensions, dividends, and interest, um, then you can do that. If you want to potentially get capital gains tax relief on the disposal of your business by living and working abroad, contact us. Partnership. If you want to find a way of getting a state pension still, you might have to pay more, but there's still ways to do that as well. What you can't change is that property is real estate, is a fixed asset, a capital asset, it's fixed income in the UK. So you've got property rental income in the UK, where you've got uh, uh, property disposal in the UK. There is a potential capital gains or rental income at 22% to pay. So there is a liability, but it's still, there's ways to manage that while you're living and working abroad. And you want more help and advice and guidance, you can contact us at proactpartnership.com. Thanks a lot for listening. We'll see you next time.